Let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Danny. And Danny writes, so, with the news of Electro coming back in Spider-Man 3 and speculation of Maguire and Garfield possibly returning too. Now remember, that Maguire Garfield thing is all pure speculation. Nobody's actually saying that's happening. Just keep that in mind. What are the chances we see new iterations of Spider-Man we haven't seen before in this film pop up? Other Peter Parkers perhaps, or even Miles or Noir Spider-Man. If it does well, could Sony end up spinning off such characters into their own standalone films? What do you think? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, when the movie fan world got shocked the other day, like totally and utterly shocked the other day, with news of Electro, Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro. How big of a role? How small of a role? What will the nature of that role be? Will it be the exact same as Electro as before? There's still a lot of questions in the air, but still, the fact that they announced that they were bringing him back, it has thrown open the floodgates of the possibilities of what could this mean? What else could they do? Could they actually bring back Andrew Garfield? Could they actually bring back Tobey Maguire? And now that has spun into even more. Well, could they bring in more iterations of Spider-Man? And you're not the first person to ask this, Danny. I mean, I've seen a lot of different movie websites writing articles about where else could Sony go? Could they bring in live action versions of the Spider-Man variants we got in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Could we have 4 or 5 Peter Parkers from alternate dimensions? Could those Peter Parkers get their own Spider-Man movies? Peter Parker number 1, Peter Parker number 2. Could we get Ben Reilly, Rob? Could Ben Reilly show up? That's the one Spider-Man iteration. I know not a lot of people like the clone stuff, but I gotta tell you, I like the Ben Reilly story. I don't know why, but that's a subject for another day. I would say there are 2 things to keep in mind right now. Thing number 1 is this, is that with Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, and hell, if you want to go by extension, Ben Affleck coming back as Batman, we are living in an era right now where literally all bets are off. Like nothing that would be the normal rules apply right now. And that's not just because of the pandemic. I mean, there's other things. Right now, all the rules are out the window. I would say this though, Rob. I doubt that we're going to see Sony at least go so far as to create multiple Peter Parkers and then have those variant Peter Parkers go on to have their own Spider-Man franchises. At least on the movie screen, I doubt we're going to see that. And the reason, Rob, that I doubt that is because what it does is it dilutes their fan base. It dilutes their IP. Right? There's only so much you can do. You still have to have, in a Wild West experimental whatever, you still have to have some sense of protection for your IP. And you don't want to dilute it too much, and you don't want to have it splintered off too much. And so, while I do think, look, I think we're going to get Spider-Woman. We're going to get, I think at some point, we're going to continue. We're obviously going to get another Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And there's different ways to do iterations, but like, as far as multiple Peter Parkers with their own spin-off things, I think for movie screens and from a business point of view, I don't think that would work. And it would have a small audience, but I think for a lot of the movie-going audiences just be, what the hell's going on? So I don't think they'll go that far. But Rob, we are living in a world where almost anything goes. Do you think we could see things go that far in the immediate future?
Well, I think that there's the possibility of going too far. It seems to be all the rage with multiple Batmans coming back, and they've already done Into the Spider-Verse, and they did it very well. I mean, Hollywood, they like to copy things that are proven formulas. But I mean, I could see it. Look at the picture that you have up, the thumbnail that you have up right now. That's pretty dope. I mean, I would watch that. I'm like, I look at that picture and I'm like, did Ray make that? That's a really cool picture. I'm like, I would watch that movie if that was, and it would be fun to see. So I just think though that this kind of gimmicky thing might overshadow the whole film itself. But then again, the animated Into the Spider-Verse was so good that if the movie was good and the script was good, it might transcend the gimmick nature of it all. And that's the only thing that I worry about with all these multiverse. You've got to still have a great story. And at the end of the day, you know, I need to have a great story about great characters, and there's got to be you have to take me on a journey where I've learned something, and I just hope that the gimmick doesn't overshadow the movies themselves. Because if they have a good reason to put all these characters together and they work well together, like they did in Into the Spider-Verse, we could get something really special. But if not, it could collapse under its own weight.
I think your example of Into the Spider-Verse is apt because, like, one of the things that they did very intentionally was that when you look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, what didn't they do? They didn't make it about all these other Universal Spider-Man variants, right? It was very much, and even with Peter being in there, I mean, you could make an argument that it was a movie about Miles and Peter. You could also just make an argument it was really about Miles. But when they did bring in these alternate variations of from different universes, one of the interesting things was, even though it was just animated, what they were very purposeful in doing was making sure there was only one Miles, there was only one Peter, there was only one, I can't remember what the anime girl's name was, Penny. There was only one Penny Parker, there was only one Noir, there was only one Spider-Ham. You know, they while it was a multiverse thing, it was still very, very unique and different characters. And I think we already see Sony doing that in live action a little bit, right? Because we've got the fact that they're introducing Spider-Woman. We've heard about Madam Web. We've heard about Silk. You know, so maybe with like very definitively different, unique characters within that Spider-Verse genre, if you will, almost like it's a genre unto itself. But again, that far, I think you're right, Rob. I think once you get into, okay, we're going to have 5 Peter Parkers, that gets a little bit gimmicky. I think you're right. And I don't know that you can go that far.
Yeah. And also, there's not a lot of differential between them. You know, it's not like they have different costumes. They're all very similar looking. So it's going to, you know, what was interesting about Into the Spider-Verse is Peter Parker was much older. You know, Miles Morales and Peter Parker were not like high school chums. You know, they were far apart in age. So that really differentiated the characters and gave us something new and unique. But if you have 3 Spider-Men that are pretty similar, how do you make that interesting? I don't know.
It will be interesting, but hey, I mean, there's no denying there would be a lot of initial excitement if they did it. But again, this is one of those concepts to me that feels like it would be great for a 10-minute YouTube video, right? But not necessarily for a full-fledged movie. But let's just call it, we're living in an age where you can't say it's out of the realm of possibility. Nope. It's not. I don't think it'll happen, but it is not outside of the realm of possibility. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Do you think Sony at this point could have like multiple Peter Parkers, multiple whatever, and then have them all doing their own movies at the same time? Is that something the market could hold? Maybe yes, maybe no. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.